Hello, can everybody hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. How you guys doing? So today we're going to do a group consult. And we have a few cases here. We have 3 cases. We can also, I can also answer the questions. I think we're going to have time for both things. And let's see. Okay. Okay. So let me bring up the chat. Here we go. Okay, nice. All right, we got audio. Nice. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, we could start off with some of the questions for the day, and then I could go to the group consult. We can try this out. Let's see. We'll see how that works. We have 3 cases. I will prioritize people who are on the line so that I can ask them some questions, and we'll see how that goes. Okay. So is there anyone, let's see, we got David and Michael. Are those the same people here, David? Let's try to get the, I can unmute the chatting. Yep, okay, so that's you guys. All right, so if Gabriel isn't on, then we'll go with you guys. Okay. All right, so let's go through the questions, and then we could do some free-form questions. I could go over some questions on Facebook. What is the safe limit in milligrams of nicotine per day? So the safe limit of nicotine per day, well, there's a dose that's going to be toxic for you and harm you. That's going to be like, probably like 100 milligrams. Again, it's not how much per day, it's how much you have per unit of time. And basically what's going to happen is you would get too nauseous if you had too much nicotine. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about going over. You're going to get nauseous first from nicotine. But in terms of what's the optimal amount, I personally wouldn't do more than, it depends on your needs, but I personally don't do more than 1 snus a day or 1 lozenge or something to that effect. And that would be like 2 milligrams a day. That's what I feel comfortable with. And often I'll only do it a few times a week. So to each their own. How do you feel about calcium glucarate or substances like DIM, I3C? So calcium glucarate is supposed to only help you if you're concurrently, which means at the same time, ingesting a toxic substance. It's not really that helpful to detox in general. The DIM is something that's useful. The indole 3-carbonyl is useful for reducing estrogen. So if someone has high levels of estrogen, and it's a factor in their health issues, I would reduce it. Is there another name for Hyname or Hymase or other brand? In Europe, it's called Fibrofin, but I can't find any company would deliver to my country. You need if you really couldn't get Hymase at all, the next best thing is just having soluble fibers, which end up turning into butyrate as well. Butyrate is what's needed. If I get more than 8, and so let's see what else. So soluble fiber is going to be found in vegetables here, by the way. Yeah, I don't recommend potato starch, so I would not do that. If I get more than 8 minutes of full body sun a day, I instantly become anxious and fatigued. Do you have any idea why that might happen? It could have something to do with causing like nitric oxide. Uh, Basically, sun, like other oxidative therapies, including exercise, what happens is you know there's a stress. It's a stressor. It's a stressor on the body, and people with CFS don't do well with, let's say, exercise, right? Oxidative stress, which is basically free radicals, causes anxiety, and it could also cause fatigue as well. Or inflammation is really, more likely to cause fatigue, but they follow closely together. So if if you get anxious and fatigued after the sun, it might be causing an inflammatory response, which usually means that you already have, like, there's underlying fatigue going on, but your nervous system is probably activated that counteracts it. The sun is probably making you more relaxed in some ways, but it's also causing oxidative stress, and it could be increasing, let's say, histamine and other things, nitric oxide especially. So it's a potent inducer of nitric oxide. And when your body has inflammation, then nitric oxide is not necessarily the best thing to increase. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get sun. It just means you should get the right amount of sun for your health issues. So sun can help you reduce your immune system. If it's reducing the inflammation, if you get like a good amount of sun, the question is, for how long do you become anxious and fatigued? Does that go away or does that stay? But what I would say is you want to get an amount of sun that, maybe, so if you were getting anxious and fatigued after 10 minutes or 8 minutes, I would then just get 10 minutes and see, and not get too much, right? And then build up as your health improves gradually with doing other things. How can I get 45 minutes full body sun per day if I get more fatigued when I do it? Seems like the same question. Do you have any recommendation for interstitial cystitis? That would require its own webinar, I think. So I'm gonna skip that over. Okay. Let me just hide some of these questions. Okay, every time I use zinc, 15 milligrams or more, I get fatigue, brain fog. What could be happening? Zinc is a very interesting mineral. It has some immune modulating effects, right? So it could increase the immune system in certain instances. It could decrease it in other instances. Depending on your situation, I would be curious, if what your immune system is like, just based on your case. But it also is an NMDA antagonist. I don't think that's the mechanism, but an NMDA antagonist means that it blocks glutamate. And glutamate, for some people, they rely on it to it's an excitatory neurotransmitter, and they rely on it, for brain function and to be awake to a certain extent. And zinc is an anti-anxiety. And part of that could just make you more fatigued and brain fog temporarily. It's not a typical instance, but so it could be through the NMDA actions, or it could be through the immune modulating actions. Okay. What is your eating regimen? I have an interesting eating regimen. So, if I'm if I'm inside, I'm going to stick with. I actually think the eating regimen is quite important. I don't know. I don't really emphasize it that much on the blog. Like I emphasize it a little more in the circadian rhythm post. But basically, I always make sure to get as much protein as I can during the day. So I eat a protein-rich meal for breakfast and usually for lunch as well. Often for lunch, not always. I try to eat soon after breakfast. I haven't been good with that for a while. I'll wait a few hours just because happens to be that developers and are in a different time zone, and if I eat and then finish eating, I wouldn't be able to interact with the developers. So I haven't been that great with it. I should be better, but pretty much you want to, number one is eat as early after breakfast as possible. Breakfast is the most important meal. In general, you don't want to do intermittent fasting if you're having at least certain kinds of health issues. You might do it for other kinds, but if fasting can cause some receptors in the brain to make you more anxious. It could disrupt your circadian rhythm. So you want to do it smart. So I try to make sure to have a protein meal. You don't want to eat like a protein-rich meal necessarily, like right when you wake up. It's usually not that comfortable. So I'll wait. Ideally would wait like a half hour or an hour. You want to drink a lot of water, kind of flush your system out because you haven't drank anything for 8 or more hours. So you want to drink a lot of water, and then you might want to take, if you wanted to be smart, you could take like a probiotic when your stomach acidity is the lowest. So if you wake up and drink a lot of water, your stomach acidity is going to be very low. It kind of goes down in the day anyway. So you want to take certain, like I take certain supplements during that time. I don't like when pregnenolone interferes with my sleep, so I like to take it on an empty stomach and, first as early in the morning as possible, or else like if it's too late, it's more likely to interfere with my sleep. So that's number one. And then what I do is I'll eat a protein-rich meal. Could be, meat or seafood or chicken or anything with protein that I'm not allergic to. I'm allergic to eggs, but generally, yeah. And then what else would I eat? Okay, so that's breakfast, and lunch. I might do a little bit of the same. For then at about, let's say I try at about 3 o'clock. Sometimes I do it later. I'll take, anywhere between, ideally it's 3, but sometimes I'll wait till like, just because I'm doing stuff, I'll wait till 6. I have a high maize drink. I used to consume high maize cookies, and that was fine. It's basically just some way to get in high maize or carbs for the day, because I think that carbs are a little bit of carbs are important. You don't want to just go 0 carb for most people. And so what I do is, with the cookies, it was more tasty, but I wanted to make it a little more functional and a way to just personally, a way to get more down. So I then take like 70 grams of high maize. And again, you want to build up to that. And so I'm getting carbs. Then I'll consume some honey as well. And these days, I actually put in a lot of olive oil, like extra virgin olive oil. Believe it or not, it doesn't taste great, but that's just what I do. And the reason I do that, and I'll put in some caprylic acid as well. The reason I do that is, because you want to get a decent amount of fat in your diet. And, for a while I was neglecting monounsaturated fats, even though I knew how healthy it was. I just, I didn't consume that much of it. But I think consuming a good amount of that is a very healthy thing. It's very good for heart health, especially olive oil. So, and the other thing is olive oil can increase testosterone as well. So I think for the fats reason, for the calories reasons, and when I say calories, you want to have a good amount of fats because it's a steady source of calories. You can eat it. You can eat quite a bit of calories from fat. Whereas if you take out, let's say, olive oil, it's going to be harder to do that. Now, if you're someone else, you can do salad with a lot of olive oil on there. And so you'll get the soluble fiber, you'll get the olive oil, you get a tiny amount of carbs. Maybe, then you can maybe eat a fruit if you wanted. You can get some more carbs like that, and some more soluble fiber as well. And so, so I think that's very important. The reason I do it at 3 o'clock is because for me and for most people, it takes about 20 hours for the soluble fiber to reach the large intestine to produce butyrate. And I noticed that if butyrate starts being produced in the middle of the night, my sleep isn't going to be as good. If you take butyrate before you go to sleep, and I've done that, it wakes you up. At least it wakes me up. And it makes sense. It increases, a bunch of genes. You really don't want to take it at night. It's something that you want to take, in the daytime. Now you can control that with pills, but if you're taking a powder, it's only going to reach your large intestine 20 hours later or something like that. The best time is going to be, it depends on, what it could anywhere from like, I'll do it anywhere from 1 to 6. Because then it's going to hit anywhere from, let's say 9 a.m. to, 2 p.m. And then it's going to last for, I don't know, up to like 6-7 hours or something like that. And I want that, so if that starts at 9, then it's going to, keep me alert and awake during the afternoon, let's say when there's an afternoon slump or something like that. If my sleep is good, then I don't have any kind of afternoon slump, and that's the vast majority of days. So, so you want to make sure to get the high maize or the soluble fiber in sometime between 1 or even 12, depending on when you wake up. So if you're waking up 8 a.m., if it's pushed back, if you wake up 6 a.m., then you could push it back even more, and you can consume it earlier. But pretty much, you want to be thinking that you want the butyrate to start hitting, let's say, about 12 o'clock or 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. or something like that, and then it's going to keep you alert and awake throughout the next day, and also calmer. So I really like doing that kind of regimen. And the reason the olive oil, again, is because the calories. Number one is, if I don't eat enough calories, and this goes for other people as well, one of the biggest problems with these kinds of diets is it could limit calories. And for a lot of people, I get the complaint that their appetite is reduced or they're losing weight. Some people gain weight, of course, but in general, they have a problem gaining weight. They gain too much weight. But a lot of people have a problem that they lose too much weight. And I do get a question a lot, what do I do, losing weight and I want to gain some weight. The best way to gain weight is through calories, and the best way to increase your caloric intake is through olive oil. Now, it's not going to make you fat, because it also burns calories, so it increases metabolism as well. But it is going to give you a source of energy that is going to, basically get you a good night's rest. And so if I drink that earlier on, like let's say 1, it's not going to, obviously, I still need to eat supper, something at 7 maybe, usually not something heavy, or between 6 and 7. And I'll have enough calories in my system that by the time I'm going to sleep, I'm not going to have a problem. Again, if you don't eat enough calories in the day, and you're having sleeping problems, you want to pay attention to that. Um, you know, so yeah, so there's definitely a benefit of having that kind of drink. And again, you can make your own variety of it, with olive oil and vegetables, leafy, like an olive oil salad or something. The main point of it, and again, for me, I do the high maize. I like it better. It gives me more butyrate, and it's a little more consistent. I could time it well. For me, I do notice leafy greens even has some immunostimulants for me, and my immune system is ready to go. So I just I find the high maize works better for me, and then I consume some honey. So the benefit of that drink, or whatever it is that I'm consuming carbs, I'm consuming a good amount of olive oil, which is going to increase heart health, calories, vascular health. It's going to increase testosterone, and it's going to help me sleep better. So that's the benefit of that drink. And you could, it doesn't taste great. So I do have high maize cookies. Problem with the cookies is if you cook them, you're going to get rid of some of the benefits of a lot of the benefits of honey and olive oil. You're not getting the kind of raw polyphenols from the olive oil because it's being cooked. So that's why I don't cook it. I used to a while ago, but I do find that I feel healthier when it's raw. And yeah, so and then I had like the cookies that I didn't cook and I ate them raw, and that was good. But problem is that I couldn't dose the high maize so well, and I like dosing things well. The reason I add in caprylic acid, you don't want to have too much caprylic acid, and that was the problem with the cookies. You really have to dose them well. So if I ate too much of the cookies and I put in a lot of caprylic acid, it's going to give me some intestinal issues, right? You don't want to, and also it can create like some kind of fever. It increases your metabolism. So I like to really measure how much olive oil, high maize, and caprylic acid that I'm getting, and honey as well. So while it tastes better if it's like in a form of some kind of dough or cookie, I like it raw better. It's healthier, and so I stopped cooking. And then I realized, for each ingredient, I actually want to dose it better. So that's why I just took it in a drink. It's not as good, but it's functional, and you can do your own thing. So I would put caprylic acid as well. Caprylic acid is a very good antimicrobial. It could help increase metabolism. It's going to give you some extra calories. So I would recommend that. And then for dinner, just to be clear, I like to have more carbs and fat, definitely. If I forget to eat dinner or I'm busy or something happens, what I'll do is, as early as possible, I'll just eat raw honey and ghee. It's just carbs and fat. You don't want to have protein at night. Protein can be very stimulating. It stimulates metabolism, which can, it gives you more energy, but metabolism is normally meant to drop down at night. And that's part of the mechanism by which you can get great sleep. We released the insomnia book, and that has a lot of good tips for sleeping well and a good understanding of, why you might be having sleeping problems. But one of the things I say is definitely that not having enough calories, and so back to the caprylic acid, I think having a source of caprylic acid is good. What you'd want to do if you're someone who just wants to make it more natural, maybe more tastier, just have like a very large salad, massive salad with caprylic acid, not too much, 1 tablespoon. and then the rest is going to be olive oil. You can put in like 4 or 5 tablespoons, and you can put in some olives if you're not sensitive. That would give it a good taste. Just some salt and spices, and you got yourself a good meal. Okay. So any other questions about my eating regimen? You can ask it. See, is there anything else part of my eating regimen? Yeah, again, just for dinner, I try not to have a protein-rich meal. I might have a little protein, like, I might have a chicken drumstick or something, but I'm going to put more fat on it. Going to make sure I get a lot of fat, because fat and carbs don't increase your metabolism that much, which is why, for carbs at least, if you decrease carbs, you're going to lose weight, because carbs are calories that are going to slower your metabolism, whereas protein is going to quicken it up. Fat, on the other hand, while it doesn't increase your metabolism like protein, it does make you very full. So it has its own benefits. A high-fat, high-protein diet is going to make you more full, and it's going to increase metabolism. So let's see. Definitely, it is one of my significant hacks to increase carbs. Have some carbs in the after the slump period. You don't want to have carbs before, because naturally the circadian rhythm makes you more tired at a certain point, and that's usually about 1 to 3. And so if you have carbs at like 4, then you're going to pass that period. You're not really going to get tired. Or if you have carbs later, you're not really going to get tired from them, if you're not allergic to them at least. And so you want to make sure to have your carbs. It's better to have your carbs for dinner, maybe 4 p.m. You definitely want to have some carbs in your day. It's going to help you in certain ways. But you got to make sure you're not allergic to them. So let's see. I wouldn't do potato starch before bed or honey before bed. Potato starch. So number one is, if you're doing potato starch before bed, let's say you go to sleep at 12 a.m. It's going to hit you at 8 p.m. and the next night, my guess is your sleep isn't going to be as good. The other thing is the potato starch is raw. It has lectins in there. I got inflammation when I consumed potato starch, so I never recommend it. The honey before bed is a good hack. Only in certain circumstances, like if you forgot supper or something. I have found that honey, if you consume enough calories, it's better not to consume honey before bed. And again, I didn't realize that until I consumed enough calories. And I would also say that you want to try to help your limbic system as much as possible. That's the part in the brain responsible for caloric balance and metabolism and things like that. So if that's working at it just needs to be working at a decent level, that system. And again, the tips that I talk about in the self-hack book are going to tell you how to balance the limbic system. But basically, I would recommend just consuming enough calories in the day. And if you're hungry or you find, if you're hungry before bed, it means your circadian rhythm is not working, because you're used to eating before bed, or your light cycles are messed up, or you're just not eating enough in the daytime. Now, you mentioned you're doing it for dream enhancement. Again, I wouldn't do that with the probiotics either, a megadose of probiotics before bed, because you're going to get lactic acid. Again, it might help for it might help for dream enhancement, but like for example, let's say it took longer for the potatoes. For some people, it could take 24 hours for it to reach your large intestine. So if you consume potato starch, before bed, and then it took 24 hours to hit your large intestine and produce butyrate, that means that while you're sleeping, you're going to have butyrate, and that's going to increase REM, right? I don't think it's great for your sleep, but it does increase REM. And so high maize does not affect my sleep quality if I take it at the right time. And again, I don't like it when it hits. I mean, maybe my dreams will be more enhanced, but I don't think that's the best for my sleep overall because it has some wakeful promoting properties. So I'm not sure that's necessarily like a goal that it should be, oh, you do it once a month. I see. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you do it as just like a recreational thing, that's fine. But as far as a health thing, I'm not a big fan of taking acetylcholinesterase inhibitors because, again, acetylcholine can increase wakefulness as well. A lot of these things that increase wakefulness can also increase REM sleep. And I wouldn't do that. Okay. But as a recreational thing, it's fine. So the replays of the webinars are just in past webinars. Best supplement to increase male libido. I'd say Icarin, zinc, dopaminergics maybe, and I would say pregnenolone would be very good. So pregnenolone, a lot of libido. So male libido is going to have to do with a bunch of different things. One is, male libido is going to be lower if you can't get blood flow going to where it needs to go. And so for blood flow, something very good is going to be sun and Icarin. And we have a post on both of those. So you can look that up. And so, if you're like overweight, you're a smoker or something like that, maybe you eat a standard American diet, your blood flow is not going to be great. And that can cause some libido issues. You obviously want to test your androgens like DHEA, testosterone, DHT, if your libido is weak, because it could be hormonal. And again, zinc, olive oil can help with that. We do have a post on testosterone. There's some supplements that can help. Let's see, I would also say sometimes reducing estrogen can help. Again, you want to check your estradiol as well to see if your estradiol is just too high. And you want to know, is it a hormonal issue? Does it have to do with dopamine? Because sometimes low dopamine can cause problems with male libido. Does it have to do with blood flow? Other hormones could influence as well. Does it have to do with neurotransmitters? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter and a hormone, like I just discussed. So what else is there? There's other things as well. So for example, if you're having inflammation and your limbic system is out of balance, there's no way that your libido is going to be where it should be. So getting rid of inflammation, getting your limbic system in balance, obviously, decreasing, if your cortisol and your nervous system is too high, that can also decrease male libido. And so you want to see what exactly is causing a problem with your libido. But I named a few things, pregnenolone I think could be good. It's just what works for you is going to depend on what your specific issue is. And there are other things with libido as well, but I won't get into it now. Okay. In your book, what chapter should I focus more if I have fibromyalgia? In your opinion, what is the best supplement for chronic pain? So I assume you're talking about the self-hack book. And you know what? There is no single chapter for fibromyalgia. I would say you want to try to figure out what area are you weak, what area causes you the most inflammation? Are you getting the most inflammation from food? Are you getting the most inflammation? Do you have sleep problems? Do you have insomnia? So, sometimes people can have issues with everything. You want to try to kind of figure out what is the issue that's driving the problems. And you could see in these consults, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, ask people and try to figure out what is driving the issues. And so for the, you can look at the, the group consult, and you can kind of try to see maybe the process that I go through. But, there's a couple very, very significant factors for fibromyalgia. With fibromyalgia in particular, it's going to have to do with serotonin, endorphins, and a few other things, right? So there's some very fundamental things that could be wrong that are very similar with CFS and things like that. And then there might be some, specifics. It could have to do with histamine. So, but you definitely want to focus on the bigger picture first and see where you're really weakened. How's your circadian rhythm? Are you getting enough light in the day? Are you getting enough sun? And once you see like which things you're weak in, and you try certain things, you got to see where you're getting the most bang for your buck. Okay. Every time I eat a tablespoon or a teaspoon of organic honey before bed, I wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing. What can it mean? And I assume it doesn't happen when you don't consume honey before bed. It could mean that you're just getting a hypoglycemic crash. For example, if you're consuming carbs at, let's say, 12 o'clock, 12 a.m., right? You go to bed, you consume some carbs before bed. That can like give you some carbs for a few hours, but then your body is going, you're going to get a hypoglycemic state. Your body's going to have to produce cortisol or epinephrine or things like that to kind of stay in balance if your limbic system is not working well. And so I speak about the limbic system a lot. If that's happening, number one is your limbic system is probably an issue, but I wouldn't do honey before bed anyway. Again, I would try the way that I spoke about. But it usually means that the limbic system with glucose balance is not an issue. That's kind of the first line of defense to hypoglycemia. When the limbic system is working, metabolism is working very well. Your body is producing energy, and when you're producing energy, you start to produce glucose more efficiently and stabilize blood sugar more efficiently. When you're having limbic system problems, the hypothalamus is not working as well as it needs to, and your glucose levels can go lower than it should. And the way the body compensates that is to produce epinephrine and cortisol, and CRH, the precursors of cortisol as well. And that causes wakefulness, right? Epinephrine and cortisol, it's going to cause your heart rate to wake up. Okay. All right. In the past, I've always used nicotine gum without problems. Recently, every time I use nicotine, my bladder starts to ache and urge to urinate. I read a few articles showing that the acetylcholine receptor has influence on bladder contraction. My question is, would there be any way for me to use nicotine without this problem? That's a good question. I don't know, right? I would stop using it if you had this problem, and that's the truth. I would probably stop using it if you had this problem. You might want to try it, or at least I would cycle off of it. It sounds like you're using it daily. But if you're not using it daily, I wouldn't use it. I would do lower doses first. You want to see, like, the less, 1 milligram of nicotine can go a long way. So maybe you're taking too much, or if that's not, or maybe you're taking it too often. If that's not the case, just get off of it. That would be my advice. because if it is happening through the acetylcholine receptor, it's going to be hard to block that effect. You know, it's not going to be easy unless, you know, some other problem is causing it and it's just worsening the issue. Okay. Joe, I'm interested in the following posts about female health. Biohacking each phase of the cycle. Okay. Birth control methods, biohacking pre-pregnancy, biohacking pregnancy, biohacking post-pregnancy, newborn health. Dave Asprey has a book called The Better Baby Book. I'm looking for something better. You want a better book than the Better Baby Book. Okay. A better baby book. All right. So I actually think those are very good topics. I will save this to, you know, I'll put that in the list of topics to go over. I'm not sure when they're going to come out, but those are definitely very interesting topics that deserve posts. In your article, 30 Natural Ways to Improve Mood by Increasing Our Opioids and Endorphins, you mentioned that both THC and CBD activate mu and delta opioid receptors. Is it possible that by activating them in your body, your body may react by downregulation these same receptors? So tolerance may be created or worse, a meltdown depending on how genetically weak or strong your opioid system is. You have to use more and more for the same effect. So is it possible that overstimulation you can end up with an exhausted or non-reactive endorphin or opioid system? So the same thing can happen with chronic stress during life, which can deplete these systems as well, ? By trying to heal an overactivated nervous system in the body, applying CBD or THC to such a depleted system is still a good idea. Does this apply for the other natural ways to get drug-free high as well? I don't, so number one is opioids and endorphins. When you're looking at that post, I don't know if I did a good job at saying where these receptors are going to be activated. Not always is it in the same place, but that's one thing, right? So each of these things are doing it in a different area. The other thing is, sure, every time you activate a receptor, not every receptor, but the opioid receptors, you are going to have some downregulation. But the way these, you know, like for THC, I think it could be a problem, for example, if you smoke a lot and, you know, you're going to get this massive hit of opioid activation in certain parts of the brain. And that could downregulate some things, definitely. That's why, you know, after that goes away, you know, you can start to have other issues. So I'm not in favor of smoking. What I am in favor of is, you know, microdosing THC, 1 milligram THC, consuming it orally, and then it makes its way through your digestive system. And it's a very, very low dosage. So, you know, it's not going to activate it that much. And the thing is that, you know, if the point of the post is to kind of, you know, do a lot of tips that will activate the receptors, and each one is not that significant. I mean, depends on the dosage, like for example, let's say THC, but the important thing is, you know, if it's part of your lifestyle, that's, you know, naturally, you're not going to activate these receptors all day and night, right? You go to sleep and it could, you know, upregulate. You're not, I would not worry about that. The real problem with downregulating receptors is when you take a massive dosage of something that's going to have a strong effect. Otherwise, you know, small and steady activation, which happens naturally in the body, is not going to cause any significant, you know, change in the receptors. It might cause a very, very slight, but I wouldn't worry about that because they're going to regulate themselves if you stop it anyway. It might take a few days, but I wouldn't worry about that. So I'm not worried about downregulation of the opioid receptors. Now, if you take an opioid, that's a drug, take like, let's say, heroin or something, you're getting this massive dose. And that's when downregulation is really a problem. Um, you know, and even a massive dose of THC is probably not a good idea, like I said. So 1 milligram, ingesting it, it's not going to give you problems. That's for sure. Do you have to, and I wouldn't worry about the CBD as well. Do you have to, with yeah, you're probably going to have to use more for the same effect, but you want to mix it up with different things, right? And I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't start going overboard with THC, but you can increase the CBD if you feel you need to. And I don't think you're going to exhaust it, but in general, it's always a good idea to just take a break from things sometimes. And naturally, I do that. I'll forget to take supplements, or I won't take THC for a day here and there, even the very low doses. So I think it's just like, if you forget your supplements or something, that's fine. Every once a week or something like that. You want to give your system some kind of break. Okay. Joe, I'm interested in the following. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just saved that. Hi, Joe. Are there ways to increase oxalobacter formagenes, oxalate degrading bacteria in the human gut? Or maybe there might be supplements you can take. I don't know the answer offhand. I think sometimes actually it might be interesting if I look some things up, and so people could see how I do research in a way. So for example, one thing I'll do is I'll go to Wikipedia is a very good starting place, and it gives you a kind of broad background. And then what you see is so something you can learn from this article, and after some B6 modulated partial metabolic degradation in the body is excreted. Okay, so it's interesting. So B6 can actually increase the degradation of the enzyme. It's just an interesting fact. Now, let's see. This is going to be a very specific question. This looks like a review article, which could be interesting. Okay, so you know what? That's a question that could actually take some time to figure out. But I'm sure you could increase it in some ways. So it's gram-negative bacteria, anaerobic, metabolizes oxalate. Sometimes in studies you'll find something that like you'll get some clues if you read through the study. But self-hacked obviously tries to spare you from that. But yeah, this seems like more of it's not going to have a lot of information on it. So it's something that I think I could find information, but it's going to take some time. By using self-decode and looking at potentially bad genes and risk alleles, how can one tell if a gene is over or under expressed? So sometimes so that can actually be sometimes difficult. You actually have to look at the information and see what issues are associated with the alleles that you have. And then you could try to figure out like what is happening with the gene. We don't have a quick way to just figure out, which gene is over or under expressed. It's something you have to go through the information and try to, piece it together yourself. But hopefully sometime in the future we'll have that. Over the past 4 months or so, I have begun to feel more and more depleted. I also gained 6 pounds. I also developed increased intolerance, sorry. Often the tips of my fingers will get ice cold when it's reasonably warm outside. So no, okay, I recently increased my thyroid medication. The number one thing you want to look at is the thyroid, right? So the thyroid hormones are going to increase metabolism and warmth and things like that. My body temperature is quite low. So number one is it could be thyroid hormones, but if you're already taking, you increased your thyroid hormones but hasn't seen any difference, then your metabolism could just be lower. And again, this actually makes sense, right? You're gaining weight here, right? You also gained 6 pounds. So your metabolism went up. And when your metabolism goes up, your body generates heat through the creation of energy. And if you're probably eating less as well, right? And you might not be able to eat more just because your appetite is lower, or even if you do, or even given the amount of calories you do eat, your metabolism can still be lower. And I think both of those are probably the issue in your case. But if you're gaining weight, it's definitely a metabolic problem where you're not burning calories well. And this is often a problem in people with limbic system issues and CFS and a bunch of issues that are going to cause problems with the limbic system. So you ask, I'm wondering if you are familiar with the Wilson protocol for thyroid health. I'm not, but I would be very skeptical of it, which involves taking T3, which seems successfully to raise people's body temperature. That's going to be true. I'm also treating a SIBO infection, and I don't know if that can be attributing to any of this. If you're doing something to treat the infection that's causing inflammation, that might be what it has to do with. I don't like it all the way. I don't like the way I'm feeling, and I would love to figure out what might be going on. They seem to begin around this time I started doing regular 4 to 5 day fasts. So if you're fasting, of course, you're going to get very cold. And 1 day a week water fasts, yeah, that's going to do it. I mean, when you fast, you're slowing your metabolism down. And what might be happening is that normally people with a good limbic system, when they stop fasting, they right away their metabolism gets going. However, if your system is not working well, then that might not be a good idea. That's why I say people with limbic system issues should not be doing the fasting like this. I would not be doing fasting, and you can see why. For you, I would very, very much focus on circadian rhythm entrainment to normalize your metabolism and get that going well. But yeah, you obviously have a metabolic derangement, and the fasting is just making it worse. I think and it has to do with the limbic system. I don't think it has to do with the thyroid hormones. You're already taking thyroid hormones. So the thyroid hormones might help a bit, but you don't want to focus on that. So most recently, I've stopped some of this way of eating. However, the symptoms have not gotten better. You really have to focus on these circadian rhythm entrainment, stress reduction, getting any anxiety or nervous system issues under control. Would love to know your thoughts about what might be going on and how I might go about figuring it out. Yeah, like again, consuming more fats from olive oil will increase your metabolism, and so you won't gain weight from it, but you will get warmer. Please don't tell me it's all inflammation. It's not all inflammation, but it is part of it, as that doesn't help a whole lot. Again, it's part of it, but again, it has to do with the limbic system. It has to do with what kind of calories you're consuming. You might want to increase your protein intake. You want to increase your monounsaturated fat intake from olive oil. You could increase the T3, but you tried it already. And you want to regulate your circadian rhythm. So I'm not saying actually it's all from inflammation, but I do think that could be part of it. I'm assuming I have systemic inflammation. Okay, that makes sense. And I'm doing what I can to address that. Yeah. But these particular symptoms are new and have been dealing with inflammation for quite some time. So again, like I said, you could be dealing with inflammation, but fasting is going to make that worse by deregulating your circadian rhythm and decreasing your metabolism. Again, what happens is when you fast, even 1 day a week, your appetite for the rest of the week also goes down often. That's why fasting is good if you want to lose weight. But if you're having a metabolic derangement, If it's a metabolic derangement where you have, the kind of a standard American one, fasting is a good idea. But if it's more has to do with the limbic system, again, I caution against it. But these particular symptoms are new. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what is sufficient but appropriate sun exposure now that the weather is getting nice. Sun is going to help you, definitely. It's going to increase blood flow. That's another thing, right? Standardizing for inflammation, if your blood flow is not working very well, and in metabolism as well, you're going to feel colder. So blood flow, which sun is going to help a lot. And so you want blood flow, you want good metabolism, you want a good limbic system, and you want to keep inflammation under control. And you want your thyroid hormones to be normal. I think you address two of these, or you're trying to, the inflammation of the thyroid hormones. You're not addressing the circadian rhythm, which is going to influence your metabolism, the kinds of foods you're eating, maybe high protein, olive oil, and and some other factors that I mentioned, maybe increasing blood flow. Everyone on the cruise sites espouses as much sun as possible. I don't believe that, by the way. I would not do that. Ending hours upon hours out during the day. Sun, cruise I don't think he appreciates the concept as much as he should of hormesis, right? He's kind of like, if something's good, the more you have, the better. However, when it comes to cold sun, the more you have, it could be worse, right? So I never say get as much sun as possible. I'm very careful about that. I say gradually increase it to a point that is optimal for you, and don't go above that. If you're getting burnt, that's a big problem. UV is damaging. I would not. Now, in low doses, it's very healthy. Increase blood flow. You suppress the immune system, but not too much. No way. And I would say that from a theoretical perspective, and also my own perspective, and the perspective of the people that I see. We had a question here that somebody gets sun for 8 minutes and they're getting anxious and tired. Now, again, they're more sensitive, but you don't want to do the cruise protocol for this. Definitely not. Wondering if it's okay to get morning sun after 9 a.m. when the UV is already 3. Yeah, sure. Often I can't get out first thing in the morning. Same with the afternoon. Is afternoon sun after 3 a good thing, or do I want to avoid? It's good. My understanding is that first thing in the morning and afternoon are mostly UVA. That's true. Not in the afternoon. First thing in the morning is true. Which is more damaging to the skin. That's true as well. Seems like some amount of time might be good, but perhaps not too long. Exactly. Again, my rule of thumb is, increases to an hour a day of UV on your body. And you want to try to make sure to, move it around a little. You don't want it on one place the whole time. What is the UV index? Sometimes I'll go for 2 hours, but not more than 2 hours. What is the UV index? And also this depends on, obviously, your latitude, the season, and how fair your skin is. If you're a redhead by the equator, you want to be very careful. What is the UV index that indicates mostly UVA as opposed to UVB? Not sure, but I don't know why that matters. With regards, I think it's the total UV that they're, I don't know how they calculate that. With regards to the midday sun between 10 to 2, I've always thought that you want to limit it perhaps to 10 to 15 minutes per side. That's not a bad. It depends on your skin tone, but if you're dark, you can double that for sure. I just recently heard from some people who have been reading up on this that they spend upwards of as much as 1 to 2 hours midday using the D-Minder app. That's a good app to make sure they get 8 to 10,000 IU. I wouldn't necessarily feel like that's necessary, because you could just check your vitamin D once every 6 months and see what you're doing. Or even once a year. I don't even check it. I haven't checked in a while. I think it's fine. I feel at a loss for what to do. I want to get as much sun as possible, but want to be safe. The skin on my arms is already extremely thin from lots of sun damage. I would not follow the cruise protocol. Definitely not. You might even want to cover your arms and try to just get it on your body. Again, you want to you want to disperse it in the places where you're not getting it. So what I'll do is I'll wear a cap so I don't get it on my face, because I get it on my face a good amount. What supplements would you recommend to improve motivation? I would recommend pregnenolone as the #1 supplement to improve motivation. By far, I'd say that's #1. #2, I'd say bromantane. That's going to increase dopamine. That's a nootropic. And things that increase dopamine could help. And then making sure your hormones, right? If you're a guy, testosterone can help with motivation. But again, pregnenolone converts to that. It converts to all the hormones. So I think pregnenolone is a good one. Exercise can decrease motivation in the short run, but interval exercise can increase motivation. I happen to think circadian rhythm entrainment is very good for motivation. Believe it or not, it's one of the most powerful things for me. If I disrupt my circadian rhythm, my motivation tanks. So it's not a supplement, but it's something that, 2 things that I think are important. What else? Light, light through the dopamine receptors, I think can increase motivation. And obviously nicotine as well. So dopaminergics in general, I think are good for motivation. And pregnenolone is good for motivation. Dopaminergics, you can have a wide range from light, bromantane, nicotine, different kinds of things. And then you can have some general things like, circadian rhythm. And actually, with diet, there's actually a very big thing. That's simply eating enough calories. You'll notice if you fast, your motivation is going to go down. Why? Because you're not producing enough energy. So if you find that you're not eating enough, you might want to ask yourself, are you having issues with motivation because you're just not eating enough? Okay. So I think it's a broader question. You focus on just how many calories you're eating, really. And the other thing is that I didn't discuss is inflammation. If you're having limbic system problems, and again, there's a good chance that that's occurring. If you're a big follower and you're reading all the content now, again, a lot of people don't have that issue. If you're not having health problems, or anxiety or things like that, or fatigue, then you're probably not having the limbic system issues. So if the problem with motivation is going together with fatigue, anxiety, inflammation, the single most important thing is going to reduce inflammation, right? Another thing is to increase orexin, right? And I would read that post as well, because orexin has a big role in increasing motivation. And the way you do that, nicotine can do that. There's a lot of things. Protein might do it a decent amount. So there's quite a few ways to improve motivation. I try to do all of them, and I find it really helps. Sometimes I'll go off the bandwagon. If I travel, it really kills my motivation. And again, what is that doing? It's really just disrupting my circadian rhythm. Usually I'm going to stay up later. I'm not eating as well as I should, or like at the wrong times. Obviously inflammation is going to tank my motivation more than anything else. So that's definitely #1. But another way, like for example, is if I fast, my motivation is going to tank. If I eat less calories, it's going to go down. And what do I mean by circadian rhythm? If you're doing intermittent fasting and you're not eating in the morning, that has an effect on my motivation for the rest of the day too. Like, the other thing is, and I didn't mention this, is stress. If you're stressed out, your motivation is going to go down. Just notice like what happens when just pay attention to it, and you're going to see that motivation tanks. And I have a post on why stress is bad and things like that. But basically, stress is going to lead to fatigue, depression, and low motivation, right? A lot of these things go together for a variety of reasons, but so in that sense, right, if that's the case, then meditation might help you or something like that, right? To put yourself in a place where you're not stressed out. But I notice if I ever get stressed that, my motivation will go down. All of a sudden, and stress is correlated with like binge eating and things like that, because your willpower just goes down when you're stressed, and willpower and motivation, they go together. Okay. So I did say I'm going to give you extra time this time around, and that will allow us to, because we had a short call last time, it's going to allow us to go through some of these questions, some of these consults. I guess it's not going to be as comprehensive as I would have liked. Now, Michael happens to be number one here, so I'm going to unmute him so that I can talk to him, and he can give as much information or as little information as he wants. But let me see, manage participants. Okay. Michael is off, so we're going to go to David. And David unmuted himself. Okay, nice. How you doing, David?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
I'm doing well.
Great. So we're going to go through your, we're going to try to go through this, and we'll see what we can do for you, and hopefully people can learn from this.
Awesome.
So, concerns, brain fog, fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, and you're 28 years old. Oh, wait, what's 28?
Started at 28.
Oh, started at 28. Okay.
Yep.
You're 31 now. Strong direction on issues above. Okay, so those are your goals. Okay, 172 pounds.
Yep, pretty normal BMI. Everything's pretty normal.
Yeah, so 6 feet, 172 is pretty normal. Yeah. You're a lean guy. You're male. You're an entrepreneur. And you've had these issues for 3 years, of course. So brain fog, blood sugar swings, hyperkalemia. How do you know you have hyperkalemia? That's high potassium.
That's low, or yeah, excuse me. It's supposed to be hypokalemia, low.
Okay, so you have low potassium. What was your potassium level on the blood test?
It was like 3.1, 3, somewhere around there. That was two.
That is very low. Wow.
Yeah, that was 2 ER visits that ended up being. That was just like complete exhaustion, feeling like I was going to faint.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's very, very low potassium. Probably one of the lowest I've seen.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that's definitely a medical issue.
Sure.
Are you, so what did the hospital, number one is, what did the hospital say why you had hypokalemia?
Well, I think I gave them some misdirection. They asked me like what my stools were like and if I had any issues with diarrhea or anything like that.
It's a good starting point. Yeah. And
yeah, certainly. And the only thing that ever induces any issue like that is caffeine. And I really didn't have anything to mention. There was no flu or anything.
Are you consuming potassium?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest concern is under eating, especially the points that you hit on in this webinar is I think under eating is a constant, appetite in general is a constant battle for me.
Appetite. So like I was saying in the webinar, a lot of people have problems. Your appetite is, you don't have a large enough appetite, right?
Absolutely.
And if you didn't try to eat more, you're probably going to lose weight.
Certainly. Yep.
Right. And so 172 at 6 foot could be, it's a good weight. It's decent, but you got to understand that he's trying to be 172, and it's a struggle.
Absolutely.
So, number one is, are you consuming olive oil? Like I said, it's a great food to increase calories.
No, I definitely am not. I don't think I'm getting enough, for surely not.
And something that actually that reminds me, within that drink, when I said that I consumed that drink, I was just talking about the foods that I consume with that drink. Mm-hmm. However, I put in supplements for it because I know the lectin avoidance diet is good for inflammation, but you are going to be nutritionally deficient in some ways. And I do discuss it in the lectin avoidance cookbook, in the lectin avoidance post. And not getting enough potassium is going to be one of them, right? Potassium is not going to be found in high concentrations in meat or oils or fats. It's going to be found in a lot of carbs and some vegetables and starches.
Definitely.
So, like potatoes and things like that, you're going to get a decent amount of potassium. Bananas is decent. But yeah, carbs and starches. So if you're going to be on a low inflammatory diet, then there probably is something else wrong, right? It should not be 3.
Sure.
So that's something you want to check out. Maybe something with the kidneys. Did they ask you about that?
Yeah. They did a urinalysis on me, and they said kidneys look fine. I've had no issues with really any issues in the past with kidneys.
Then again, it still shouldn't be that level by just not consuming enough potassium, because the body's pretty good at getting potassium to a stable level. But it could be a little lower, definitely. So how long have you been consuming, let's say, what's your diet? Let's fast forward there.
Mostly paleo.
So that's a problem, right?
Sure.
You're not eating starches, right?
Right, absolutely.
You're not getting enough potassium. And one of the things I didn't mention with the diet stuff was that I put potassium in that drink that I consume because I know I'm not getting enough potassium. So I make sure to get a decent amount of potassium. You don't want to put too much, or else you can. It's going to cause, it can irritate your intestine, right? You want to, consume a smaller amount, but optimally would be best to do that twice a day to take some potassium. I take it once a day. I probably should take it twice a day. But
I've been doing it mornings, and I haven't had any issues with the similar feelings of
and
depletion.
And have any of your symptoms improved?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've noticed circulation improvement mostly, and I don't know what the pathway is behind that, but I certainly feel better circulation, less cold hands, less cold feet, things like that.
There is a pathway that could have to do with aldosterone. Potassium can increase aldosterone. Aldosterone increases blood pressure, and your blood pressure is probably low.
Extremely. They always.
Potassium can also lower blood pressure if you have very high blood pressure. But it's always very low. Okay, so that's something that is something you want to think about as well. Is it still low?
It's lower than I'd like it to be. It's not. I had a heart monitor. I did a heart monitor test for two straight days, and it was acceptable. Everything was acceptable, but it seems low, and that seems to be part of my theories too on my energy levels and stuff. It's just everything's downregulated.
Yeah, there's not enough blood flowing to your brain. That's
sure.
If you're a lot of people that I deal with have low blood pressure. So again, this is a common symptom. And that's why it's helpful that we're going through this. A lot of the symptoms are going to be the same. So what is the numbers for your blood pressure, just so I know?
Offhand, I'm not really sure. I just know that beats per minute is always extremely low.
What were you extremely low in?
Like my resting pulse, yeah, it's always like around 50 or 45, and it's always extremely low. It's always on the always a concern for bradycardia.
I see. So 45 is pretty low. Do you work out a lot?
Yeah, and so that's the ironic thing, and what always kind of derails me with the medical system is I appear extremely fit. I was in the military and was a rescue swimmer, and I'm look extremely healthy, but now I have no tolerance for exercise and actually can't. But I still have a decent appearance as if I was, but I keep explaining how depleted and how kind of CFS type of symptoms or what I think CFS would be like.
So you're definitely having some dysautonomia, your nervous system, your heart. It's not like balancing itself well, right?
Absolutely.
your blood pressure, your blood sugar, brain fog. Obviously, you're having some limbic system issues, right? The CFS, it just being fatigued, brain fog, blood sugar. I mean, these are limbic system problems.
Certainly.
And yes, you're definitely having limbic system issues. Okay. Were you taking vitamin D when the issue started?
No, not specifically. No, I just think it's a sort
Is
of
this 42 nanomoles?
Yes, it is.
So that's not nanograms per milliliter. That's
No.
going to be less. Okay, so that's actually a deficiency.
Right, and I think it's even a bigger problem too because I used to be in Florida and now I'm in Wisconsin, and I think it's even.
Okay, that's a problem. Okay,
certainly.
so when I ask this question, I'm looking at is someone getting enough sun, right? And the answer is no, right? So I think a lack of sun probably contributed to some of your issues. Now, it's probably not the only thing, of course, but this is something that you're weak in and you want to get more sun and light. If you're not getting enough sun, you're not getting enough light either. Your circadian rhythm is probably not working well. And I think you probably understand that diet plays a very big role in your issues and has helped you a lot. That's why you're on the paleo diet / lectin avoidance diet. It sounds like you're not all the way there with the lectin avoidance.
No, like you said, like the depletion part of it and the calorie restriction, I find that hard. I know I need to eat more, so it's kind of.
Again, that is a common problem. So yeah, focus on the olive oil. Focus on fat.
Definitely.
And focus on soluble fibers. So for me, I like high maize the best, but
I just ordered some actually as this webinar was going, so I'm excited to experiment.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, so you can take more high maize. I take it once a day, but it could be beneficial to take it twice a day. I probably should do that. I don't really have any issues now, so when you don't have issues, you get a little lazier and you don't take care of yourself as well. But if you're having issues, you want to do as many things as possible. So the dosage, if you're taking it twice a day, would be something like 50 grams twice a day, and sometime between 12. You take it once at 12 and then once at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
So I think the butyrate is butyrate is a fat. It's a short chain fatty acid, and the soluble fiber is a carbohydrate, but it turns into a fat. And so that's a way to get in calories, number one. And I think that's going to be good for you. It's a way to get in butyrate. That's going to actually take away your blood sugar swings just while you have these issues, because blood sugar swings are not going to be good just in the meantime.
Certainly.
So I think that's going to help your issues. How long have you been reading Self-Hack for, by the way?
I probably discovered it maybe 2 years ago or so, and then faithfully started following it, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, I guess. Okay,
that's cool. So you've only recently wanted to start experimenting with the high maize.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I think I went in a poor order of events. I have every single vitamin and supplement under the sun, and not kind of the basic, basic protocol.
I got
more
it.
of a structure.
Okay, so no chronic pain, loose stools after caffeine. This is not good. I would not be consuming caffeine.
Yeah, I'm done with caffeine entirely. Okay. It was just odd because it's been an absolute backbone. I would drink 2 pots a day and feel great, and everything's going good. And now I can't even have a cup, and I have anxiety and
exactly.
Bathroom.
So again, once you have these issues, it's a problem.
Certainly.
And you feel better without it, I take it.
100%. Yeah, no question.
Okay. So do you have sleep problems? Let's see. So you wake up regularly without CBD oil, magnesium, and black cumin. Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of my night stack. I'm not sure if it's good or not, but it seems to kind of work to keep me through the night. I don't know about sleep quality.
I wouldn't take the black cumin at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
CBD oil and magnesium are probably helping you. Black cumin, I would not take.
Okay.
And it sounds like you're having some inflammation for sure.
Yeah.
And so the question is where you're having the inflammation from. You're sleeping 6 to 9 hours. That means that you could improve your sleep, right? You should be getting 8 hours a day, especially in the position you're in. And so that means that sleep is something you want to look at as well, right? And you took out caffeine. I'm sure that helped your sleep a bit.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, so that's number one. Do you have a lot of stress in your life currently?
I would say that I'm still on the come down. I just separated from the military about 2 years ago by now, and I'm still
I see.
kind of adjusting.
So you've had a long period of stress.
Extremely long. And I think
I
that's
see.
99% of this entire story. So each tip that you give me is really important, but stress reduction's always at the forefront.
So yeah, exactly. So that's why I say like you got to find where your weak spots are, and what I'm doing now is just finding. I say, okay, your sleep is not great. You're probably sensitive to foods. You have some other things going on like low potassium. That I would say is an exception. But then you got the blood sugar issues, the brain fog. That's going to have to do with the limbic system. You're having some inflammation, and what I think is really important is so the limbic system issues as well. It's probably not only from inflammation. It sounds like when people have gone through a very long bout of extreme stress, it kind of puts you through similar symptoms as people with PTSD. And what that is just the PTSD is an imbalance of the limbic system, and a lot of butyrate can help that. Right. So
awesome.
With PTSD, I think it's something that is good. So butyrate, and obviously the number one is just reduce stress as much as possible. Right. You want to kind of recover. It's not a problem with the adrenal system, but I understand the point you're trying to make.
Right. Yeah, and I appreciate it. That was thought that was some of your best work about adrenal exhaustion and adrenal fatigue. I thought you hit it on the head. One of the few people that did. That's what kind of drew me into really believing into what you were saying, just because that entire part of the health care model is a little bit of a tragic mishap, in my opinion.
I agree. So low cortisol, that usually means that your circadian rhythm is out of whack. So often a lot of problems come at once, like, your limbic system causes circadian rhythm problems. Sleep problems, this, that, and the other. You're obviously dealing with a lot of the main things that I speak about in the self-hack book, like, some of the core things. And so I'm not going to go through the specifics now of everything within the protocol, but we have the protocols, and everything you do within the protocol is going to help you. But in your case, if I had to order it, definitely stress is going to be probably number one. So balancing your nervous system, stress reduction, meditation, yoga, these kinds of things are going to help. Circadian rhythm. Food might be number two. So inflammation. The issue started after black mold, you say?
I would say that extreme levels of disturbances in my sleep and kind of anxiety started appearing, and definitely black mold was a big part of it. I suspect that's in hindsight.
Okay, so that could have been part of it as well, definitely.
Right.
So toxins are something that I speak about. How long ago was that?
That was probably 4 years ago by now.
That should have diminished, right? So, you can try certain things for that, but I would say that's probably, it's going to be maybe number 5 or something. Sure, what you want to focus on is number 1 is going to be stress reduction, then diet, then circadian rhythm, then sleep. And again, they all go together in a lot of ways. And then you're going to want to focus on what else? You can try, you want to live in a clean environment, be outside a lot of the day, but obviously you're also deficient in sun and light. And again, that's going to be a big thing as well. So sun and light, definitely a lot more light. I would say that's going to be number 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. It's going to go hand in hand with the circadian rhythm.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So Sheila G, CBD, black cumin. Okay. All right, creatine, zinc, and you're taking some potassium citrate. Okay. So the supplements aren't too bad. Not bad. Decent stack. What kind of Shilajit are you taking?
It's the kind that you recommend in the black little tin.
Oh, okay. So that's a good one. Yeah. It's expensive, but good.
Yeah, I noticed a great effect.
Yeah. Okay. And so you got depression on your mother's side, cancer, and okay. The main thing I'd be worried about, depression. So obviously you're susceptible. Depression is often is going to have to do with the limbic system, almost always.
Sure.
So there's probably some genetics there as well that have to do with the limbic system. And that's like a quick take of what's going on. So the main thing that you want to do is kind of chip away one at a time at the things in the order that I listed them. What to focus on. And then we see like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm keeping the diet better. And then, this is, X, Y, and Z, and this is how I feel. And then we could see ways to optimize it after that. But
awesome.
I think like just the big picture, an initial like big picture thing, that's why we have the self-hack book. It's that's the big picture. And so if I tell you, number one is, for you is whatever, stress reduction, we have a whole chapter, a big part of that in the book, as well as, you can get some free information on the blog as well, quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I love the book, yeah.
So the book and the blog, look for those sections that have to do with these things and kind of go from the thing number one and then go to number two, right? But again, it's, most people are going to have issues with these things to one degree or another. And the question is, what is number one? What is number two? Because at the end of the day, you're in Wisconsin, right? You're not moving in a day.
Right, no.
And so, that's not going to be great, but you could still start chipping away at what I think is number one. And, I might not be 100% right all the time, but, it's a good place to start, is my guess.
Definitely.
Okay. Do we have, so you're the only person on board right now. I would go through their issues, but I can't ask them questions.
Hey, Joe, if I could just ask you one quick question. What do you think exercise intolerance would be from in the whole snapshot of what I've just given you? I know it's limited. And,
well, that's very common, right? So basically, it's going to have to do with, it's a metabolic issue, number one, and it's a limbic system. It's a limbic system issue. And then it's an inflammatory and oxidative stress issue. There's a few issues involved, right? So exercise is supposed to induce like, you basically deplete energy and then you're supposed to just increase energy after, right?
Right.
Your energy increasing systems increase. And this is a simple way to think about it. You can look at it in a bunch of different layers. And I'm not going to get into all the layers. I just want to give you, some kind of basic framework to understand it. And what happened if you have, one of the things they recently found was that metabolism is a lot lower in people with CFS. Now, I could have said that without any study, just because I understand what's going on. But the study was useful. So I'm happy that now we know that that's a problem. And basically, you deplete energy, and number one is what you do is you kind of activate the nervous system as well, right? You exercise intensely, you're increasing the nervous system. It's kind of like you're stressed out. And normal people who are stressed out, if you don't have issues, it's fine, right? You're resilient. But if you already got like PTSD or I'm just saying in the extreme case, or, you're just like, you've been stressed out for a really long time, your body is not going to deal with, something that's going to increase stress so acutely. Or if we're just talking about, let's say you take an hour walk or something, in that case, it's not necessarily so stressful, but it is energy depleting, and your body is not producing that energy quickly enough that you're compensating for it. And again, it has to do with orexin. I got a post on orexin. And like there's various neurotransmitters in place in the brain. I'm actually gonna, we have part of exclusive content. I was working on a book with fatigue. I haven't had time recently, but if you look at glossary parts of the brain, causes of fatigue, some of my top recommendations, I would really look at some of those things and obviously that's a work in progress. I have to do work on this, but you're going to see a lot of information about the limbic system, orexin. That's going to really give you the biochemical aspects and different kinds of things going on. But a big picture is that your metabolism, your energy production systems, the wakefulness systems in your brain are not, they're not functioning properly, and you're not regenerating energy like you should be. So you exercise, you deplete your energy, and then it could take you like a whole day to increase it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, so we did we went a half hour over on this one, and I promised that last time. So yeah, I think this is a good call, and as always, we're going to have it ready. We recorded it, and it'll be ready for everyone to watch. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, my pleasure. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.